when you put up photos of the food you made and I start looking at mortadella and you go, what the hell is mortadella? And it's like, well, it's like fancy bologna.
Yeah, yeah,
If you want to call it that.
exactly.
There was nothing about the food that you showed me that I was like, I wanted everything. It was amazing. And I think using the food, the gustatory pleasures of the table, is something that draws people into the conversation. They're actually
Right.
interested in it because, well, who doesn't enjoy a nice piece of ham unless you have reasons you don't eat pork? For me, it was everything about its sustainability and management. And then you were helping solve a problem by putting good food on your table for your friends and family. That seemed like the perfect solution in a sense. I was actually surprised to find out how sort of controversial some of it could be. From other cooking groups that I'm in, I'm actually surprised at how little time people spend cooking at all. That art form has changed. We're not spending as much time gardening, farming, canning, preserving, smoking, things, preparation methods that take a long time. Some of that has fallen by the wayside as we have more and more access to large commercial scale agriculture and food production. The artisanal component of what you were doing, complete geek. I was like, I wanted to pull you aside and go, I need time and tutelage to be able to study how to do this, because when I think about commercial pork, one of the things that's happened with my diet is I'm mainly at this point eating a carnivore diet. It's mainly meat and fat, particularly beef. My body responds inordinately well to this. I've had chronic pain problems from joint pain that went away within 6 weeks eating this way. But one of the things I've noticed is I'm more cautious about commercially raised pork. And I'm not sure if it's the pork itself or if it's something in the diet because they're just fed, corn. But I'm assuming that a grass finished, if you want to call it pastured pork, which wild hog would be, I don't know if my body would have a different response to that. So it was this collision of forces in my world where it was like good eating, health, sustainability, learning more about Texas, and this artisanal culture where you were getting into making these things yourself. I would be the first one sitting there with casings helping you make sausage and learning every little detail, because people don't understand, like when you make sausage, they make those jokes about what's it, sausage and laws. You don't want to get involved in how they're
Yeah,
made. But
yeah,
when you control the grind and you control the spices, you control the texture. You can alter it in various ways. So, for instance, I grew up in Louisiana where pork and chicken and seafood is more common. As soon as I talk to my brother about pork, he's like, "Ooh, could you make andouille?"
yeah. Yeah. There anything you can make with domestic, you can make with feral. There's no doubt about it. The thing with the feral though is it's much cleaner meat. Let's look at some numbers here. Let me give you some numbers. This will pique your interest because of your thought about domestic and how you're affected by it. This is for a 3.5 ounce serving, okay? Wild boar cholesterol in milligrams, 55, beef, 62, pork, 71, okay? And chicken is 57. I mean, wild boar is lower in cholesterol than all three. Okay, let's talk about protein. Same portion in grams, 26.1 grams of protein for the wild boar, 19.6 for beef, 16.6 for pork, domestic pork, and 20.5 for chicken. Beats them all. It's got more protein to it. Saturated fat in grams, 5.2 for the wild boar, 11.2 for beef, 22.5 for domestic pork, and of course the chicken beats them. It's at 4.3. But take a wild boar, 5.2 in saturated fats compared to 22.5 in a domestic. That's a big difference, And the unsaturated fats, it's 2.9 for the wild boar, 4.1 for the beef, and 8.3 for the domestic. Much cleaner meat, much cleaner, much healthier meat.
When you
It's
take out a hog and you're thinking about processing, When you go
Mhm.
out into a stand, it's a sounder. Is that the group of pigs?
Yes, right.
So you're using night vision. You get the sounder in your scope. Do you pick the piglet or do you pick the full grown hog?
Depends on what I'm wanting at the time for
Aha.
meat. You know, if I, yeah, we can't keep every hog we kill, by the way. I don't even do that. I can't do, we just can't. But when, and I don't, I can't tell you the last time I sit in a stand. I always spot and stalk, walk around, whatever we spot them and go to them. But if your younger, smaller pigs will be more tender, but there's a lot less meat. If I want things like if I'm going to try to get some ribs or for sure pork bellies, getting bellies off feral hogs is pretty difficult. You can get them in the winter when they're fattened up off, bigger sows. And that's about the only time you can really get some pork belly out of them because in the summer they run so much off and they're just not, there's not much belly there. And the ribs don't have a lot of meat on them, they'll be a lot better. The bigger hogs, the smaller hogs, it's almost nothing there. So if you want to cook a whole smaller hog, if that's what you're going to do on a smoker or whatever, then, the smaller pigs. But, I look at it every time as to the size of the hog as to what I'm going to make with it, you
Yeah.
know. I may not even know that when I take them. I'll know in my mind, hey, I need these
What are
small.
the things most hunters are taking the loins and they're taking like the shoulders of the hams
Yeah, and
and
that's pretty much,
that's it, right?
yeah, for the most part. Now, there are a lot of people that still, want to hang them and try to take everything they can off of them. Hey, I get it. I do not gut any of mine. I do the gutless method. Glenn Guest put up a really on his Hog Zombies YouTube page, real good video on being able to process a hog in 10 minutes. I mean, that got my attention because I can get rid of that hog and be moving on really fast. And I've learned to do it very well. You don't get a lot of shoulder meat on feral hogs the way you would think of it with, pork butts or something like that. But you still get enough out of there. You make carnitas and things like that. The hams you can do so many things with, and not a lot of people use them for making a holiday type ham, curing them and whatever. But I have. I've made quite a few of them, and it's some of the better ham you'll get out there. It's very good made that way.
When you're taking a hog, you're selecting almost for like cuts, size, age, depending on what your, desires are. What are the things that you wish hunters were making with wild hog that they're not currently looking at, maybe because it's labor intense?
Well, I think it's just an overall thing of making use of the meat. It doesn't matter so much what cut or what they would do more, but try and learn something out of it. I just came from a different generation. A lot of the younger guys don't seem to have it the same as the older guys in the sense of my dad said, if you're going to shoot and kill it, you're going to eat, you need to eat it. We can't do that with pigs, and I don't think of that every time I shoot hogs because we got to keep the numbers down. So sometimes we're just trying to get the numbers down, and we're just killing hogs. So I think that if they just try to broaden their horizons a little bit and not just think of throwing things on smokers and go get yourself a grinder and make some sausage. I
Oh,
mean,
I'm with you.
yeah, because it's really sausage is fairly easy to make, and you'll love it. Around our house, we spaghetti and meatballs or lasagna. It's all with I make Italian sausage. That's what we use in those dishes. And I mean, I look back on using beef and I think, God, how bland that was.
Yeah.
It wasn't very good. So I don't think of a specific thing. I just think of I wish more people would learn to give it some effort, or try to give it some effort. People have a lot of excuses why they don't, but I think if you did, you'd learn to appreciate it.
I got to figure out what I got to do. And I know I don't need a hunting license now. Jeremy informed me of
Yeah.
this to hunt hogs. I got to get a hunter's license and a weapon and take a gun class or whatever I got to do to hang out with you guys and do this. I am
Yeah.
my every little geek synapse in my brain and it gets excited because I'm also dealing with food items and products I cannot go purchase.
Right.
I would do stuff. I had a home and I had a little organic garden, and I taught myself just enough organic gardening from the internet, vermicomposting, and I would grow lettuce. And I'd grow like heirloom variety of vegetables and radishes and some deer tongue leaf lettuce. And when we'd have dinner, I'd say, do you guys want salad? And they're like, yeah. And I'd go out and pick some radishes and some lettuce from the front yard, which was where my garden was. And everybody would just freak out because the texture and the flavor profile of just trash vegetables. I mean, these are radishes. Radishes aren't anything to write home about, right? The combination of like textures and flavors, you couldn't go purchase the salad I just picked out of my front yard. And then when I saw the photos of what you were doing, it just blew my top off.